refuse to back down. And day by day, it becomes clear there's no love lost between these two teams. Yesterday, the battle continued, and at day's end, Biggio's Astros were another game ahead. But the Cubs have kept their groove on and hope to be even in the series when the dust settles today. Will number 50 help Sammy and the Cubs shine brighter than the boys from the Lone Star State? Sammy will make his run for it on WGN next. Well, it's a hitter's delight here at the friendly confines. The wind is blowing straight out, and the Houston Astros and Chicago Cubs battle in Game 2 of this three-game series here from the friendly confines. Hello again, everybody. I'm Chip Carey along with Steve Stone. Welcome to Cubs baseball. Yesterday, it was Randy Johnson and the Astros winning the ball game 8-3. And Stoney, as a former Major League pitcher, you had to be impressed with another former Cy Young Award winner, Randy Johnson. He was everything advertised and more.
I didn't think he had his best stuff, but it was good enough. He gave the Cubs only 2 hits over 7 innings, and yesterday it was all Houston. And today is going to be an offensive day, and the 2 pitchers are going to have a big say in this because they're going to have to keep the ball down. And as you see, Jose Lima has been terrific in his last 5 starts. Steve Trachsel has been dominant here at home. But most of the time when Trachsel goes to the mound here at Wrigley Field, the wind has been blowing in. It's not the case today.
And you've got to tangle with not only the top scoring offense in the National League, but a guy that's making a serious MVP run. That's, of course, Moises Alou.
Moises Alou with 37 home runs this year, and as you can see, it's been a banner year for him. He's done a great job against the Cubs, and all he has to do is touch it today to get it out of the ballpark.
A hot, muggy day with the wind blowing out. Before the offensive fireworks begin, let's enjoy our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Chicago. The final score, the Cubs now 8.5 games out of first place, and coupled with a Met win yesterday, the Cubs now a game behind the New Yorkers in the hunt for the National League's wild card position. But today's a new day as some of the fans have taken the field on this gorgeous day for baseball. And the Cubs try to even the series now at a game apiece here at home. It's Steve Trachsel on the mound for the Cubs. That's not Steve. And Jose Lima for the Houston Astros. And here's a look at our starting lineups for today's ball game. Larry Dierker's club 80-50 on the year. They send Craig Biggio, Bill Spires, Derek Bell to the plate first. Then it's Bagwell, Alou, an MVP candidate, Carl Everett in center, Gutierrez, Osmus, and Lima. The pitcher bats ninth.
And the Pepsi defense for Jim Riggleman and the Cubs, Rodriguez, Johnson, and Sosa left to right. In the infield, Gaetti, Hernandez, Morandini, and Grace, and a battery of Tyler Houston and Steve Trachsel.
So the Cubs take the field to a big roar here. Another crowd of 39,000 on hand. A big roar, of course, for Sammy as he does his trot across the pasture in right field. Sosa comes into the game looking for home run number 50. And Stoney, days like these are the days that hitters love to play at Wrigley Field.
Well, one of the factors is that Jose Lima leads Houston in giving up home runs. Steve Trachsel, by and large, has done a nice job of keeping the ball in the ballpark this year, yielding just 17 home runs in 162 and a third innings. Both of those numbers of both of these starters will be put to the test today. This is about the windiest day we've had, and the wind is blowing out probably as hard as we've seen it, and it's blowing straight out over the center field wall.
So Steve Trachsel, if he is to win his career high 14th game today, is going to have to keep the ball down, because as you said in our open, just a simple flick of the wrists is really going to help the ball just explode out of this ballpark, and we might see one of those classic Mike Schmidt, Dave Kingman like slugfests today, as the Astros, the top scoring team in the National League, comes to town against Sammy Sosa, Henry Rodriguez and company here at Wrigley Field.
Well, the Cubs have out-homered the Astros this year. The Cubs have hit 162 homers, the Astros 136. One of the reasons why the Astros lead the National League in scoring is not only do they hit a lot of home runs, but they've also stolen 132 bases as compared to the Cubs' 52. So the Cubs kind of one-dimensional as an offensive club. Houston has a couple ways to beat you. And hopefully today Steve Trachsel can help shut down that running game by keeping the base runners off base.
Well, you didn't have to worry about a stolen base yesterday. As you see, Rodney Myers called up from AAA today. Terry Adams sent down, who really had his problems since the All-Star break. And Rodney pitched very well exclusively out of the pen the last 2 months. So hopefully he'll help fortify what's been a somewhat shaky middle relief situation for the Cubs, despite the acquisitions of Heredia and Matt Karchner.
It is a beautiful day on the lake today, but the one thing, Chip, it's a ceremonial send down in that it's kind of a wake-up call for Terry Adams. You know he'll be back when they expand the roster, so he's only going to be down a week, but this is one of those things that maybe sends a message to a player. We're hoping that Terry is able to resolve out what other difficulties he might have had and comes back and becomes a very productive member of that bullpen, because I still believe that he's got to be one of the keys for the Cubs this year.
Well, yesterday, Craig Biggio started the game in fine fashion for the Astros, jumping in front of Don Wingert 1-0 with a solo homer in the first. And obviously, you hope that doesn't happen today, as Biggio, first man in the National League since Ryan Sandberg to score 100 runs in 4 straight years, leads things off. Jeff Nelson will be the home plate umpire. Jim Quick, Jeff Kellogg, Joe West, the umpire at third today. Biggio at .323, 14 homers and 66 runs batted in. And Trachsel misses with ball one. Steve 13-6 on the year. A 4.05 ERA. He's won 7 of his last 8 decisions this year for the Cubs.
Trachsel's always had a tough time with the Astros. 3-4 lifetime, an ERA of .474 in 10 games. This is his first start against them this year.
Two balls, no strikes. That's right through there, 2-1. Biggio against Trachsel here in the first inning. The 2-1 now. Swing and a miss, 2-2. Of course, this game of huge importance for the Cubs, who still feel they can contend for the Central Division crown, but also in the wild card race. The Mets lead the wild card by a game, but they're losing right now to Arizona 1-0 in the 4th inning at New York. Al Leiter pitching for the Mets in that ball game. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hit to the right side and fair down the line. Biggio's got at least 2. And he'll glide into second base with a leadoff double. Boy, this team is so balanced. They beat you so many ways, with the long ball, with the stolen base, and the heads-up play like the one you saw from Biggio.
I think Biggio has an on-base percentage over .400, and that's what you look for. And here he's not over-swinging. He takes that pitch away, takes it right down the line past Mark Grace. And as it dies in right field, Biggio on his way into second base. And what a player he is. And who's cleaning up in baseball for Hoover? The National League doubles leaders. Biggio, 1 behind Bichette, with Young, Walker, and Fulmer rounding it out. And that's who's cleaning up for Hoover.
So Biggio at second, nobody out for Bill Spires. Playing third base today, hitting .278, 3 homers, and 39 runs driven in. Don't want to give these guys too many runs early. And Trachsel with a good fastball gets ahead of Spires, 0-1. Astros at 80 and 50 on the year. The Cubs come in at 70 and 58. No balls and a strike. Biggio a good lead. Off the middle, Morandini to his right. Good play. Spires does his job. One away, runner to third. Well, that's a sign of a good ball club. They get the man to second base. Spires gives himself up. Biggio moves to third for Derek Bell. And let's take a look at today's ComEd Power Profile.
A ComEd Power Profile is Steve Trachsel in his last 2 starts where he's won them both. An ERA of just 1.76, and you can see only 1 walk covering 15 1/3 innings, and Steve Trachsel is our ComEd Power Profile. Cubs will concede the run on a ground ball in the infield, trying to stay out of the big inning.
Bell hitting .309 with 18 homers and 91 driven in. Runner at third, the pitch. Bounces away from Houston. 1 ball, no strikes. A hot day to relax on mom or dad here at the ballpark. Bell hasn't homered since the 14th. That was a home run off Mark Clark, but it is the most he's ever hit as an Astro. So he's having another good year for this Houston ball club.
Houston came in second in the league in hitting behind Colorado, but first in the all-important column of runs scored. So this is a high-powered offense. And they also far and away lead the National League in stolen bases. You can see Derek Bell has done the job in this situation consistently.
Fouls that ball back, 2-1. Good news in New York. Arizona's added a run. Devon White just hit a solo homer, so they lead the Mets 2-0.
Bell became a big run producer when he decided to work with just 1 stance instead of the 4 or 5 he had been working with, and when he decided to take the ball into right and right center field. The 2 managers going head to head in what both feel is a critical series, much more so for the Cubs, however, as the Astros have a big, comfortable lead.
The 2-1 swung on, hit hard into center field. Lance Johnson's going to catch it. Biggio's going to tag from third. He'll trot home with the first run of the ball game, and the Astros lead at 1-0. A sacrifice fly off the bat of Derek Bell.
Bell has done that particularly well. That's the 10th sacrifice fly he's hit this year, and that leads the ball club in that department.
So Biggio adds to his runs scored total for the Houston team. And Craig has now scored 102 runs in 130 games. So Trachsel down 1-0 in the ball game, and the Astro cleanup man Jeff Bagwell will be your hitter. Jeff having a very good season. Missed some time with injury, but still with 27 homers, 86 runs batted in. A man of the wacky right-hand batting stance. But boy, he can hit. It's low, 2-0.
What he's added this year over the last couple of years is the ability to take the ball out in right and right center field. If you stay away, he can hit it out that way pretty easily.
Right through there from Trachsel. 2 balls and a strike. Well, this Houston team, I know nobody wants to face them in the postseason. Not after they picked up Randy Johnson, and not after you look at the offensive numbers this team puts up.
Not only that, Chip, but they've got a huge advantage because they do have a big lead, and it looks like they're going to maintain that lead. They can rearrange their pitching rotation so that you're going to have to face Randy Johnson in 1 and 5 in a 5-game series.
Ball 4 misses outside to Bagwell, and now Moises Alou will be the batter.
This is the one guy you didn't want to face in this situation. Trachsel thought he had that strike, didn't get the call from Jeff Nelson. That's one of the reasons for the long walk off the mound. And walks in the National League. Bagwell right there on the leaderboard. McGuire running away with it, but Bonds at 106. And then Sheffield and Bagwell. And here's been the guy who's hit so many huge home runs against the Cubs.
And speaking of McGuire, the Cardinals losing in Pittsburgh 3-0. McGuire 0 for 1 and has another walk already today. So here is Alou. 37 homers, 112 driven in. Well, if you talk to the Astros people, they really haven't been surprised by the big hits he's gotten, but they have been surprised by the high homer total. 37 of them.
Well, his career high was 23, and I asked him what was the difference. He said working out with weights during the season. He said he does that all the time. It's the first year that he really has gone after it, and he feels he's just a lot stronger this year.
He's right. He had a home run cut and missed that 0-1. I really believe this is the guy that made their team, though. They had the killer bees, then they added this guy, and they really took off offensively.
Well, certainly the addition of Everett in center field and Alou with some revamped pitching because they lost 60% of their rotation from last year.
No balls, 1 strike. Count evens up at a ball and a strike now.
But you're right about Moises Alou. He's given them a force offensively behind Bagwell, and that's been something in the past that they haven't had a whole lot of.
Man on the left, a slugger. The man on the right, a high percentage hitter. And 2 very good first basemen. Talking things over here in game 2 of this 3-game set. A lovely Sunday afternoon in Chicago. And we'll do it again tomorrow before hitting the road. A ball and a strike. Low, 2-1. The Cubs, after the Astro game tomorrow, will battle the Reds. Tampany against Reyes, Wood against Tomko. 2 young fireballers matching up in the second game. The pitch, swing, and a foul tip. 2-2.
The Reds certainly have had their difficulties. They have fallen into last place in the Central. They're 3 games behind the Pirates, who are winners of 6 games in a row. The Pirates are starting to heat it up.
2 balls, 2 strikes. It's in the dirt. I think the Pirates are averaging about 8 runs a game in the last week or so.
I know they've been going crazy offensively, and they've always had some pretty good arms. Pittsburgh 4th in the National League in pitching.
So now Bagwell will get a head start with 2 outs. Count full, 3-2 to Moises Alou. 1-0. The Astros have the first inning lead. A double by Biggio and a sacrifice fly by Bell. The runner goes. The 3-2 pitch hit high in the air into foul ground. Mark Grace has a play. He's got it, and the inning is over. 1 run, 1 hit, 1 man left. After a half inning, the Astros have drawn first inning blood. 3 Sammy with 49 jacks on the year. Grace, Rodriguez, Hernandez at short. Tyler Houston, Gary Gaetti at third, and Steve Trachsel, the Cub pitcher, bats 9th.
And the defense for Larry Dierker and the Astros. Alou, Everett, and Bell left to right. Spires, Gutierrez, Biggio, and Bagwell in the infield. Battery of Brad Ausmus and Jose Lima looking for his 13th win. This is his 27th start. Not bad for a guy that was 1-6 out of the bullpen last year. They converted him to a starter, and he's done quite a job. He has a pretty good slider, a good but not great fastball, and 2 different changeups. One he'll throw to a left-hander, one he'll throw to a right-hander. Both of them very effective, and that's probably his best pitch.
So here is Lance, 7 for his last 20. That's why he's getting the bulk of the playing time in center field, as Brant Brown has struggled a bit with the bat. And the skipper Jim Riggleman going with the hot hand for the Cub team. Down the stretch, just 5 weeks left in the season. 1 ball, 1 strike to Lance, who went hitless against the big unit yesterday. Boy, was he tough. Swung on, line into right center field. It'll drop for a hit. Everett got to it, knocked it down, and Johnson leads off with a single to right. Leadoff man aboard here in the bottom of inning number 1.
This is going to be a pretty high scoring affair before it's over. Lima throws a fastball and Lance hits it right on the nose. Everett cuts it off, and Lance is aboard to lead it off.
So here's Mickey Morandini, and Johnson dives back to first.
Lima originally signed by Detroit as an undrafted free agent on July 5th of 1989.
Ball 1 outside.
He came over in a huge deal between the Tigers and Houston, July 10th of 96, along with Brad Osmus, Trevor Miller, C.J. Nitkowski, and Darrell Ward, in exchange for Doug Brocail, Brian Hunter, Todd Jones, Orlando Miller, and a player to be named later. So once again, the father and the son hooking up on a deal. Tal Smith and Randy Smith in another blockbuster.
Yeah, about the only guys that didn't trade teams were Ernie Harwell and Milo Hamilton in that deal. Those guys hooked up in a biggie. 2 balls, no strikes. The pitch is over for strike 1. The Cardinals have hit a home run in Pittsburgh. No, it wasn't Mark McGuire. It was Fernando Tatis. But it is 3-1 in favor of Pittsburgh. 2-1 your count. Astros have scored first. They lead it 1-0 here in the bottom half of inning number 1. Well, the Astros have to be absolutely delighted with what they've gotten from Lima this year. Ground ball right side. Bagwell can't handle it. And everybody's going to be safe. 2 on, nobody out for Sammy.
It goes as a base hit as Mickey Morandini hits it to the right side. Bagwell trying to backhand it, couldn't come up with it. We'll watch it again. If Bagwell gets it, there'll be a force out at second, but he cannot corral it. And so 2 on, nobody out.
And they are here to see Sosa airmail one out of this place.
Well, you got a good matchup. The wind blowing out very briskly. And the man on the Astros who's given up the most home runs on their staff, Jose Lima.
Sammy looking for number 50 on the year. He's hit 2 of them on the homestand so far. .309 average. The pitch is inside. That's just a don't get too comfortable fastball up there from Lima to Sosa. Runners at first and second. Nobody out for the Cubs. The 1-0. Oh, what a cut. Wow, he didn't miss that by much, but he tipped it away. 1-1.
The Southwest Plainview camera will take a look at a fastball up and out over the plate. And Sammy got under it.
Boy, you love pitching on days like this, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, it was always very good. I gave up 5 solo home runs on a day very similar to this. That was a delight.
1-1. Swung on, hit high in the air into shallow left field. Gutierrez out, puts it away, and there's out number 1. So Sosa pops out.
Well, you can tell how far he drifted on that the wind is howling out, because that one was popped up over the infield. When it got over the top of the stands, that ball was carried out into left field. Was actually an easier play for Alou than it was for Gutierrez.
So Mark Grace, after a 9-game hitting streak, tries to break out of an 0-for-7 slump for him. He's hitting .317 with 13 homers, 64 driven in. A hit means a run here. And if he can elevate the baseball, he might crack home run number 14. The pitch. Outside corner, strike one.
Good speed in the outfield for the Astros all the way around to Lou, Everett, and Bell.
Ground ball toward first. Bagwell goes to second. One relay to first is in time. And the double play retires the side. The Cubs had him first and second with nobody out and failed to score in inning number one. With his lovely girlfriend Sharon here at the friendly confines. Always great to see Jim, one of our bosses, on hand as the Astros lead it 1-0 after one inning of play.
And Sharon works for Let Us Entertain You, so you know Jim eats very well.
So here's Carl Everett. He'll lead things off. The Mets have gotten a run back. It's 3-1 in the fourth inning. The Diamondbacks leading New York. As our buddy Tom Brenneman says, you don't want to mess with the Diamondbacks. But the Mets trying to do just that. They came from 4-0 down yesterday to win big at home. Here's Everett, who's had a very, very good year for this Houston team. A man that had all kinds of problems off the field in New York last year and has really blossomed in the Lone Star State.
Jerry Hunsinger said he was very familiar with Carl Everett from his days with the Mets. And he felt that he would be a solid citizen with the Astros and certainly helped them in the outfield. And he's done everything they've asked and more.
Good pitch from Steve.
Been a better hitter from the left side. Most of his power as a left-hand hitter. 10 of his 12 home runs coming from that side. 51 of his 62 RBIs as a left-hand hitter.
No balls, 2 strikes. 1-2. Went downstairs and talked with Randy Johnson before the ball game today and asked him how this Astro team compares, if at all, to the Seattle Mariner team that he pitched with for so long. And he thinks it does compare very favorably, with one big difference, and it's the difference you mentioned. This Astro team much more balanced with speed and maybe not quite as much power as the Seattle ball club has.
But also probably a lot better pitching up and down as far as that bullpen is concerned, with the closer Billy Wagner being a huge difference in the two teams.
1-2, served into shallow left. Jose's got it, and there's out number one. You have to feel kind of sorry for Randy. This ballpark opening up around the early portions of this decade. Everywhere Randy goes, he's got to duck his head. Even when he's sitting on the bench, he's got to keep a low profile to make sure he doesn't smack himself every time.
That's what Randy did yesterday. And as you can tell, he was awfully tough, despite, in his own words, not having the best stuff he's ever had. It certainly looked good enough.
But he really has enjoyed his time in Houston so far, and obviously was disappointed with the way things ended up in Seattle. A diving catch in left by Henry. Good play. Gutierrez retired.
Henry comes across, and this sinking line drive looked like it was going to fall in, but Henry had other ideas as he takes the dive and comes up unscathed. And Henry has only made one error this year. He's on top of the leaderboard in fielding percentage by left fielders.
So 2 up, 2 down for Ausmus, and I think that's something that has surprised everybody in Chicago. Henry, really a terrific first baseman, can play the outfield, but I think everyone's surprised that he's played it so flawlessly this year.
Also made some real good catches on balls that seemingly looked like they were going to go into the corner for a double. Henry's gone over into that corner, kept his concentration, and made the play.
Good breaking ball. 1-2. And even if Henry weren't as prolific with the glove as he's been this year, you'd love him for his bat because he's hit 31 homers. And Ausmus bloops that over the mound. Morandini can't barehand it in time, and Ausmus legs out an infield hit.
Well, that was a squibber as it came off the bat, and a very tough do-or-die barehand pickup for Mickey. Brad Ausmus runs exceptionally well for a catcher, and Mickey knew he had to hurry. He came across and couldn't come up with it with the bare hand. So Ausmus with a little infield hit, and you have to keep your eye on him. He's stolen 9 bases, been caught 3 times.
And Jose Lima, the pitcher, will bat here in the second inning. Lima hitting 131 with 2 runs driven in. The hits are even at 2 now. The Astros lead the game by a run. And that's out of play down the right side. No balls and a strike. Lima has shocked the world by winning 12 games this year for Houston. You hope that that little bit of a run ends in today's ball game.
It's
1 ball, 1 strike.
Even more surprising when you realize he got to the big leagues in '94 with the Tigers, then was there with '95 and '96. His highest win total was 6, and that was in 1996 with Detroit.
One and 1. 1 and 2. So what's the difference?
They're giving him a chance to start all the time. I mean, he was used in the bullpen most of the time. Had 1 chance to start, 15 starts with the Tigers in '95. He was 3-9 with an ERA over 6. But he's still a very young man. He's just 25 years old. So he's probably developing a little later.
1 ball, 2 strikes. To the right side, easy Sunday hop for Grace. He steps on the bag, and that retires the side. Coming from behind to win. And on today's Discover Card Payback Playback, we relive Friday's 9th inning heroics by Jose Hernandez. His RBI single gave the Cubs their 38th come-from-behind victory, one behind the Astros, and it was the 17th time the Cubs won in their final at-bat. Another Wrigley comeback and a biggie on Friday, today's Discover Card Payback Playback. Well, we'll need a big comeback today. It's 1-0 in favor of the Astros. After 1.5, Henry Rodriguez, a great defensive play a moment ago.
And now Henry has a chance to do it with the bat, and he's been doing with the bat all year long. We'd like to send along special birthday greetings to Lyle Harris, the son of Arnie Harris, on a birthday today.
And birthday greetings as well to young Christopher Lecklum, watching the game down in Orlando, Florida. Celebrating a big birthday today. He's turning into a big Cub fan. So happy birthday, Christopher. Hope you are watching the game today. Here's Henry leading things off. Swung on, popped up, back toward us, and out of play.
Well, one thing you can't do today is give up on pop-ups, because pop-ups that seemingly are back in the seats are going to be carried back toward the field of play by this very strong wind. And so you got to be wary at the corners if you're playing defense.
Another pop-up. This one, however, will stay in play, and it drops.
As I told you, that ball was out of play and came back, and it was an easier play for Gutierrez, but he didn't see it. Goes as an error on Billy Spires, as he just goes across and misses it.
Yeah, the air conditioning's not quite so tough to play as the balmy subtropical breezes here at the ballpark. So Henry's aboard on the third baseman's error. The Cubs again have the leadoff man aboard, and now Jose Hernandez is the batter. It's 1-0 in favor of Houston in the second inning. The pitch is right through there, 0-1. Jose having a career year. 18 homers, 61 batted in, hitting .269 on the season. Good stop by Ausmus to even the count.
Ausmus, a pretty good defensive catcher of their catching platoon of Eusebio and Ausmus. Ausmus a little better defensively. Tony has been a better hitter most of his career.
One ball, one strike. Swung on, hammered down the left field line. If it's fair, it's trouble, but he pulled it foul. 1-2. This guy's having a great homestand. 10 hits in his last 18 at bats. And that coming off a very, very tough road trip for Jose.
This would be a good day for him to hit his 19th, because you got to believe that Lima at one time is going to try to sneak that fastball inside to Jose.
1-2. The pitch. Chopper toward third. Spires handles that. Throws to Biggio. One. Relay to first. Not in time. Rodriguez is retired.
Looked like Henry might have hurt himself sliding in at second, and boy, the Cubs could ill afford to lose Henry. Let's hope that he just got hit on the shin and he's going to be okay. And I'm not sure if he hit the base or if he hit the leg of Biggio. We'll take another look at it. We'll key at second base as Henry goes in, and Biggio planting that front leg, and no, just an awkward slide, and that's not good.
It's like his cleat stuck.
That's exactly what happened, Chip. Right there, it was the back foot, and it just caught under him, and he is in tremendous pain.
And what really hurts you about this play is that he was out by 15 feet.
Yeah, he couldn't even get a piece of Biggio, and he was trying to get down to avoid the throw coming over his head, but the back cleat caught. And we just have to hope that Henry's okay.
So he is still down. Dave Tumbas, the Cubs trainer, out attending to him. And another look.
It's the right leg, and it bends under him as the spike caught. And he's not going to be up and around for a bit.
So this would be a huge blow for the Cubs if Henry Rodriguez is lost for any period of time. The man has had an absolutely fantastic season for this Cub ball club, and for a team that is so dependent on the home run, losing a guy that's hit 31 on the year will be an awfully tough thing for this team to overcome in the final 5 weeks of the year. And even the Astros now huddling around Henry on the infield as he stays down at second base. Steve Melendez out there as well. The umpires gathering around Henry.
We just have to hope that Henry has some pretty good flexibility, because if he does, it'll just be very sore and that will be it. But you'll know they'll want to take a look at it as Henry being helped to his feet. We'll see if he can put any weight on it at this point, and that should be a tip-off.
So he's walking off. And doesn't appear to be limping too badly at the moment. So I think you're right. Hopefully it's just a stretch and a scare for him, but he is going to leave the ball game. At least for the moment, as he is forced out at second base, and we'll see whether he stays in the game after coming out here. So as Henry gets a big cheer heading back to the Cub dugout, let's pause quickly for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN, Chicago.
So not good news, it would appear, for Henry Rodriguez, as Tyler Houston pops the ball out of play down the left side. 0-1. 1-0 in favor of Houston. The Cubs still batting in the second inning. The Mets got 2 against the Diamondbacks. It's now 3-2 in the 5th inning at Shea Stadium. Mark McGwire has doubled for the Cardinals. They trail 3-1 against Jason Schmidt. Greg Vaughn of the Padres has hit a home run again. What a year that guy's having. The pitch swung on, popped up, out of play again.
That's 42 for Vaughn, I believe, isn't it?
I believe so. Yes, it is 42 for Vaughn. 3-1, the Padres lead the Brewers. It's funny, the Brewers traded Vaughn because they didn't want to pay him $5 million a year, but they're paying Jaha and Nilsson $7 million. And they're not having any kind of season like Greg Vaughn's having.
Well,
One
the
ball,
Padres
2 strikes.
traded Greg Vaughn also, but he didn't pass the Yankee
That's
physical.
exactly right.
And they got him back, and all he's going to do is hit 50 home runs this year.
And what's the old adage, Steve?
Some of the best trades are the ones you don't make.
And a
And
close
that
play.
was very close at first. As Lima's got a very good move. He almost caught Jose napping. Jose has to hustle back, and he's just barely in.
Yeah, if Bagwell had gotten the right leg, he would have been out. Big lead over there. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. Another throw. He's back standing up. Mike Lansing of Colorado hit a home run. 5-1. They lead Mike Grace and the Phillies. The pitch. He checked his swing and evens the count at 2-2. Well, the air show's taking place here in Chicago. Haven't seen any of the fighter planes soaring overhead yet today.
This was the water half of the air and water show. And flying boats are hard to come by.
Tyler Houston foul tips it into the catcher's glove. Is that right? I didn't know that. 2 down.
Maybe next year they'll be out with a lot of them. As well, watch this one again. There's a good changeup. And we told you Lima has 2 of them. The one he throws to the left-hander just dies and sinks away from the left-hand hitter. And Gary Gaetti said he was sporting a very nice-sized bruise where he was hit yesterday by Randy Johnson.
That's not a surprise. The pitch swung and lined into left field. Alou plays it safe. With a pitcher coming up, Gaetti singles to left. But it's a good hitting pitcher, Steve Trachsel, who will be the hitter. I wonder if he could read Leonard Coleman's signature on that bruise.
Well, he said he doesn't bruise easily, and very rarely will he ever show a mark, even after getting hit quite a bit. But this one, he said, was particularly colorful. He got hit right on the back of the left calf, the left thigh, rather, and he said it is a dandy.
I'll bet Andres Galarraga's got a bruise or 2 today as well. One thing's for sure, his pocketbook's going to take a beating after he and Darren Dreifert went at it in yesterday's game down in Atlanta. Dreifert hit him last Sunday, and then he hit him yesterday in Atlanta. As Trachsel, the batter, takes outside. In fact, Galarraga went so far as to say in yesterday's papers, if he hits me, I'm coming after him. Well, guess what happened?
Let me guess. He hit him and he went after him.
You got it. And then got thrown out of the ball game. Dreifert left after getting his arm all scratched up and scraped up in a nasty entanglement on the mouth. Baseball's got to do something about those brawls, and you know they're going to try this offseason.
Well, the big cat is usually very mild-mannered. But he was a tiger yesterday.
1-0 out of play.
Trachsel has been very good this year, hitting .255. He's driven in 4 runs. He trails his teammate Kevin Tapani by 5 runs driven in. But here's a chance to help himself with the wind blowing out. And I would think Everett very shallow in center field. We've seen Steve Trachsel at times put a charge into it, so let's see if he can burn Carl Everett in center.
If he hits the ball on a line, he could do just that. 1 ball, 1 strike. Swung on, hit high in the air toward right center. Everett on the run. He gives way to Bell. who stands in front and makes the grab to retire the side. The Cubs leave 2 in the second. It's 1-0 Houston. Play left field for Henry Rodriguez, who left due to injury. We'll try to update his condition as soon as the info is made available to us. Chip Carey, Steve Stoner, very special guest, Commander Scott Altman of the U.S. Navy and a NASA astronaut with us in the booth.
Hi.
Hey,
Great
Scott.
to be here.
Great to have you here.
Oh, thanks. It's just been a super day.
Big time Cub fan, we understand.
From a long time ago, I remember coming up here in the 5th grade and sitting over there in the bleachers and watching the Cubs play. It was just a real thrill.
Now, you were on the Space Shuttle Columbia, and you took Ryan Sandberg's Cub jersey up with you?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had that up in the cabin with us and was able to put it on and wear it during some of the experiments that we did. So I brought it along with me to give back to the Cubs.
Well, I think they might probably let you keep that one as a souvenir of your trip, not that you need any more of them.
As Craig Biggio leads things off for the Astros here in the 3rd inning. Scott, if you can, try to put into words what it's like to blast off on the space shuttle and zoom around the Earth in all those orbits.
It's just an amazing experience. You know, when the engines light off and the whole vehicle starts shaking.
Like a cab ride in New York.
Yeah. Just imagine the wildest cab ride you've ever had. And then it lasts about 8.5 minutes, and then you're in orbit in space. 0 G, everything's floating around. If it's not tied down, it's wandering off somewhere.
Oh, wow. Henry Rodriguez, by the way, a twisted right ankle. And he's being taken to Northwestern Hospital for precautionary x-rays. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Biggio.
Now, you threw the first pitch out today, and let's critique your form a little bit. Looks like a fairly good delivery. And you made it all the way or not?
Oh, there was no bounce.
There you go.
I got a lot of ribbing before that the one thing I needed to do was make it all the way to the plate. So I had that goal in mind.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Biggio, who doubled and scored the only run of this ball game. The wind blowing straight out. And that's in the dirt. Did he offer at it? No, he did not. It's 2 and 2. What's it like to float around weightless like that?
Well, it's after about 4 hours, I got used to it. It's kind of like going over the top of a roller coaster ride, and then you kind of rise up in your seat. But when you're in space, you never come down. I spent about 4 hours waiting for that coming down period. Then you got used to it. You can do tricks, roll around, aileron rolls. It was just a lot of fun.
3 balls, 2 strikes.
So the whole flight covered 16 days. And then you said when you came back, you didn't exactly get reoriented right away. How long did it take you to get back so you felt fairly normal?
Yeah, that really surprised me. We talk a lot about astronauts feeling ill when they get up there, but when I got back, it really took 4 days until I felt like I was walking normally and not kind of wobbling, looking tipsy.
3 and 2. Strike 3 call. That sounds like a couple of my grandfather's nights out on Rush Street, by the way. 1 away here in the 3rd inning.
Craig Biggio takes a good fastball. It's over the inside corner, and he just got outguessed. He didn't argue with Jeff Nelson at all. He just walked on back.
So Trachsel gets the all-important leadoff man, and Bill Spires will be the Houston batter. Tell us about the astronaut candidate program. How many guys and gals now apply for it, and how many are selected?
Yeah, that's a good point. It is totally co-ed now with women and men. Every 2 years, NASA puts out a call for applications, and about 3,000 people apply. Out of that, they interview about 110, 120, and pick typically 20 to 30 people for an astronaut class. And then for me, it was about 3 years until I flew for the first time.
1 ball, no strikes to Spires, and of course Senator John Glenn's going to go back into space.
That's right. October 29th, he blasts off again. I think it's going to be a real treat for the whole country. His chance to get his second flight after waiting so long.
That will be neat to see. 2 balls, no strikes to Bill Spires, and it's outside 3-0.
So it took you 3 years of classes, I guess, and then the weeding out process that I'm sure you went through before you ever got a chance to do any flying at all on the shuttle?
To actually be on the shuttle for a mission, that's right. I really was only in the actual space vehicle, the orbiter, a couple of times before we blasted off.
3-0. Right through there. 3 balls and a strike. Did you take off in the morning or at night? Because I live in Orlando and we see those night takeoffs, and that is spectacular.
Yeah, the night launches really are spectacular. We took off at about 2:19 in the afternoon. Beautiful blue sky, that big white contrail. It was just a great day for a launch. Had the whole family there. About half of Illinois, it seemed like, came down.
Oh, that's great. Spires pops this ball up to the right side. Morandini and Grace will converge. Grace takes over, puts it away for out number 2. That ball looked like one of those moon shots as it left the bat. Just a high arcing pop.
Yeah, the great thing about 0G is if you hit a ball like that, it'd never come down.
That's right. We need some of those in this ball game. Wind's going out.
You know,
today.
there are a lot of people who have a fear of flying at all. On the initial blast off, was there any fear? Did you have any fear at all?
My biggest concern was that I felt confident I knew everything to handle the procedures. I just wanted to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. You know, there are thousands of people down there working to make sure that that vehicle was as safe as it could be, so I really felt good about the program.
1 ball, no strikes to Derek Bell, who hit a sacrifice fly to score the first Houston run. We're joined by Commander Scott Altman of the U.S. Navy and a NASA astronaut in our booth at Wrigley Field, and that's a ball high, 2-0. Well, you've got to be happy to be back on terra firma, though.
It was a great time in outer space, but I did miss home a little bit. It was great to come back, you know, and one of the things I missed was seeing a ball game here at Wrigley Field, so I'm really thrilled to be able to come back and share a day like this.
Any plans to go back into space, or are you through with the program, or where are you?
No, I'm definitely planning on going back. It'll be probably 1.5 years or 2 years before my next mission. Hopefully, maybe as we build the International Space Station.
3 balls, no strikes to Derek Bell. The pitch. Here's a strike. Well, you need to give a few points to our commander, Pete Toma, down in the booth, about what it's like to be a true commander. Steve will fill you in on that after this half inning. 3-1 is our count to Derek Bell. Swung on and bounced foul, and the count 3-2. Where's home for you?
Well, I grew up in Pekin, Illinois, just downstate. I came up to Cubs games when I could over the summers growing up, and now I'm living in Houston, where all the astronauts train and work.
I certainly hope you haven't made the conversion to an Astro fan.
No, I am raising 2 boys, and I'm trying to bring them up right in Cubs fan style.
There's ball 4 inside, a 2-out walk from Trachsel, his second of the game, and that brings Jeff Bagwell into the batter's box.
And that's what you were hoping to avoid, was bringing Bagwell to the plate with anybody on.
Bagwell walked his first time up. 1-0 in favor of Houston. Yeah, it must be boring just to fly a simple jet like that.
Flying is great.
shuttle.
I love flying the shuttle. We fly T-38s down at NASA to keep our piloting skills up and get out and about in those, and it's a lot of fun.
Bagwell rips it foul and out of play. Now, what specifically was your job on the space shuttle?
Well, I sat in the right seat as the pilot of the shuttle, monitored the instruments on the way up, and then during the entry when we came back, the same kind of thing, monitoring the parameters of the entry, making sure that we were on energy, and backing up the mission commander who sat in the left seat and actually had his hands on the stick for landing the orbiter, because it is hand flown to a touchdown.
Wow, what a sensation that must be. You're a braver man than I'd be chicken, man. There's no way I'm doing that.
It's a real thrill. I really feel privileged and honored to be able to be a part of the program, and I think it is a great thing.
No balls and a strike. Bagwell digging in. The pitch. Inside corner, 0-2. Now, how realistic? Our commander, Pete Toma, wants to know, how realistic are all these sci-fi movies that show all the space shuttle shots that you see in the movies in Hollywood?
Well, you know, they filmed a lot of Armageddon right in Houston, and they had some T-38 footage in the movie. You know, parts of it are very realistic, and parts of it are a little wild, a little above board, Hollywoodized. But I think it's great that there's been so much interest in space recently with movies like Deep Impact and Armageddon. The people are excited about going to space again.
Well, especially when the commander's the big hero of the whole picture. That's got to be the most realistic part of the whole film,
Oh,
right?
yeah, you got to go along with that, right?
Absolutely.
Will we continue with this space program? I mean, will it be something that will continue to grow as the years go on?
Well, it's basically going to depend on the American public, what they want to support. I think we do have some broad-based support right now. NASA's talking about a mission to Mars, maybe going back to the moon, and we are building the International Space Station that's going to launch in November, the first element, and then we'll be building that through 2003.
I think that's a perfect place for Steve to reside in the offseason.
I like baseball expansion to Mars. Yeah.
That's right.
Ball club up there. It takes you a little while to get there, but you just play extended homestands.
I like the park's dimensions, too. It'd be tough to hit one out. The 0-2 is high, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Now, there's only about half the gravity on Mars that there is right here, so it'd be a little bit easier to hit the long ball.
So McGuire could hit him and they'd go forever.
They'd go for a long time, yeah. But it does take, the road trips would be a little long. It's about a 6-month trip to get there. So.
1 ball, 2 strikes. And Arnie Harris has the most important question of all. When you guys are flying in space, who picks up the dinner check? That's what he wants to know.
Well, we take all our own food along, and we alternate duties as far as putting it all together and preparing a meal.
Wind might blow that ball back into play. It did. Grace makes the catch. And that retires the side. Commander Scott Altman, a great pleasure to meet you. Welcome back home, and keep up the great work with the Space Shuttle program.
Thank you so much. Just a true thrill for me to be here.
The thrill was ours. Thank you.